Hi, Sachin.
Hey, Dinkar.
So, Sachin, we have reached a landmark, and in all the previous discussions we have had till now, we kind of covered a lot of topics and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was kind of bring them together into one thought, and wanted to discuss the challenges behind operationalizing them.
Correct.
If things were easy, then everyone would have done it. There are some real challenges. So let me first quickly do a recap. So we have been saying that metrics are important. What you should do is focus on metrics that cover the whole spectrum of journey of a software, from it being developed to it being put into production, and then it being used in a business scenario to generate value or revenues or whatever business outcomes you have been looking for.
Yeah.
While we have not used the term till now, and this is the big reveal that a lot of TikTokers do talk about the reveal. We have been referring to it internally as EEBO Metrics, engineering excellence to business outcomes. And what these metrics essentially do is kind of bring everything together for the development team, for the DevOps team, and for the business stakeholders, where they get one unified view of what's happening. And the aim of this view is not to give a dashboard so people can say, there is inefficiency here, there is inefficiency here, can you give me this view? The purpose of this is not to analyze, slice, dice, and figure out what's wrong, but this dashboard to act in a sort of as a North Star, that this is what we set out to achieve, that we will excel in the things we are doing. We will put out things into the market, into the world fast, and we will benefit from it, and we will learn from it, and the learnings will go back, and we'll have a build, measure, learn cycle. And that's the essence behind EEBO Metrics. And we have talked about it in multiple videos that we have done.
Yeah.
Now, with that in mind, it sounds very nice. We have this North Star to which all the development, production teams, and business teams are aligned. So the question that everyone would have in mind, if it was so easy, if EEBO Metrics were so easy to adapt, to adopt, and then why hasn't everyone done it? Definitely, there are operational challenges. So we wanted to cover a few of those. And Sachin, you can go first. Which is your topmost challenge?
The reason why we speak a lot about that first challenge is, in my mind, the top challenge is awareness. So if you think about it, we have been talking about how to measure business outcomes, how to measure engineering outcomes, how to contextualize, how to link them for almost about 10 episodes on this particular podcast are dedicated to that. It is that important in my mind, because we have spoken to so many people in past couple of years. We know that this is a real challenge. And the challenge is because people have been going through different journey in terms of their project. Sometimes they get assigned to a project. Sometimes like whole initiative, something starts. And at that time, they are not aware how this will pan out. So they believe there is no measure of success for this. And even every assignment, and they believe that, okay, my current assignment is so unique that 3 months later, we will come to know what are the measure of success for us. Right now, all we are doing is gathering requirement, or we are just understanding this landscape, or we are just solving this one small problem. And that myth in their head that, okay, right now I don't have it, but I'll get to it. And when I will get to it, we can actually document it. That actually is the biggest struggle. So in my mind today, I would like to urge anybody who is actually listening to this is, It could be process, it could be initiative, it could be project, it could be just a mundane task of even doing simple database migration. There can be a measure of success applied to that. There could be a engineering outcome associated with it, which delivers business outcome. If there is no business value going to get delivered, then that initiative shouldn't even exist in the first place.
Right.
So the work is assigned, people are putting money to do it. That means there is some promise somebody is making to someone else saying that I will deliver this once I finish these 5 activities. So there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't ask this yourself. What are the measure of success for this initiative? And if not, let's debate about it. Let's discuss amongst ourselves. There are, on this particular podcast, we gave framework, and we are, Dinkar has given talks about EEBO. We have published those slides as well. You can see that it is so easy in terms of asking some questions, pointed questions, and then go from there. So awareness in my mind is the biggest problem. And do not believe that your situation is so unique that you can't actually assign a measure of success today. You can assign a measure of success in technical sense as well as in the business outcome sense. You just need to start thinking about it.
Right. So the operational challenge that I want to call out is on the other extreme. So on one extreme, we have this lack of awareness. What is it? On the other hand, there is a deluge of metrics that I want to call out. As a product manager, one of the things we learn is ability to say no to a feature, ability to keep your product light, ability to implement only that which is really needed, and not just push things because your development team is free. They need to do something. Let's build a feature, right?
Correct.
And that philosophy kind of carries on when you are thinking about metrics. There is a tendency to just have a metric to represent something. I call it adjacency to Conway's law. If your organization has a structure, if there's a channel of communication, it seems that people lean towards having a metric for everyone. Hey, hey team, I have 15 teams which are running on this program. So can I have a metric for each one of them? One team could be development team, what could be this, right? Support team, or even development, someone is doing backend, someone is doing UI. And suddenly what happens is we have these metrics, so many of them in front of us that at some point they stop making sense to us, right? And that happens so often. And when you have this deluge of metrics in front of you, what do? The human tendency is that as a product manager or a project manager or a program manager, someone will put red, amber, green. So these are the metrics which are green, these are the metrics which are in amber, and these are the metrics which are red. And in every sync up, what will people do? They will focus on the things which are red. They say, we need to fix them. Because there are so many things happening. That's a normal thing for a boss. Okay, let me go and look at what is wrong and let's try to fix it. And this becomes like a management by crisis, right? I'm kind of looking at these crises and I'm just rallying people around fixing that. So suddenly everyone who's working on something is going and focusing on that red metric, trying to fix it. And suddenly, everything else kind of loses space. And then it becomes very important to be very much aware that each metric has a cost. It has a cost of development, it has a cost of tracking, and it has a cost for remediation in future. So, come up with some number which is sane, estimate and say that each metric has this cost on my organization. And if you're putting some metrics which are going beyond some crazy number, that's your first indication something is wrong. So it's very important. And that's one of the reasons why it's becoming so difficult to operationalize having metrics is they suddenly become too many. It becomes like, where's my metric? Where's my metric? I need a metric. Where's, on that board, I need to show that I am green. And suddenly it becomes a deluge. And for the only way someone can make sense of it is focus on one or two which are red. And that becomes, the focus of everyone. It kind of takes away from the outcome, the purpose, right? So the process and operationalization becomes the focus there. So the second challenge to operationalization is too many metrics. Sachin, which is your next one?
I think you said it correct. The deluge of metrics is second in terms of like the volume itself, but there is a right next problem when you have identified metrics. So let's say that you went through the journey, you listened to us, and you said, okay, I want to identify metric. I am and now I understand the importance. I will not do deluge, but I'll just pick very few, the good ones, which I want to track, which are relevant to me, and which will be a very good indication of my progress, basically. How do you measure them? So third challenge, which I would like to say, is identifying the sources. Many times, if you are a small organization where everything is tightly knit, you are in control, like startup ecosystem kind of thing, you practically have access to every system. You can connect to your customer analytics platform. You can connect to your observability platform. You can connect to your cloud console. You already have full development environment under your control. And there is pretty good chance that you also know how you are doing as a business in terms of, and it is so direct in your face kind of failure and success is that either you are making to next cut or you are actually just going backwards. So the visibility, the awareness is not an issue there. But think about large programs where there are organizations like mid-size or even like 500 people organization can start seeing these silos of information and control. Bureaucracy kicks in and people say, oh, I am in control of these analytics things. I am actually in control of cloud. I'm in control of customer support. And when all these siloed departments start owning this data, visibility itself becomes a problem. How would I know? Let's say that I am actually working on a database migration project and I was given this task. What is the impact of it? How do I measure? I don't even control, connect, I don't even have access to the cloud console or New Relic or the other tools, observability tools in the system. People actually block it and people say, you don't need to worry about it. We have got it covered, right? And these type of things are just too small. But even for, let's say, large organizations, this becomes even bigger problem because you have to cross departmental boundaries. Right. And we actually broke our heads on a couple of places, right, Dinkar, is once you have to cross the department boundary, that's even more difficult than actually crossing your organizational boundary. Because people there is a turf control there. There are people who are in, there are some systems which they have developed. They are their babies and they don't want other people to open them. They don't want that access to go away. And it just becomes a change program in my mind. Yeah. That somebody has to just go from top. So the cost of mobilizing these sources so that people will be able to gaining this visibility is such a nightmare that sometimes you start questioning the even value of doing such kind of things. Yeah. And as leaders of organization, I think this is a problem which they need to see through and make sure that if you want to democratize basically ownership, management, visibility, you need to allow limited access to these type of data. And how you do that, every organization can have different ways to do it. But at least I'm saying is certain security. And by the way, I have found the most favorite reason to shoot down such request is security.
Yeah, compliance. My favorite.
Compliance and security, these are like the two easiest curtains behind which you can hide for any number of times. You can say it's not policy, it's not security, it's not secure enough. For every time I heard the word security or compliance in relationship to getting access to metric, I think it will be just insane amount of money if I could just get $1 for every time.
Yeah. The one that I want to talk about is little more trickier, right? So you will hear this phrase a lot, success metrics, right? And I always cringe a little bit, right? Because what we are already doing is, we kind of, setting us up for a denial of a chance of a failure. So, and that's why I keep on saying we should say metric. It'll have, success marker, and it'll have a
Yeah,
failure threshold.
that's a good point.
It's very important to know that, hey, at what point should I consider that things are failing, right? So this is my favorite example. If you built a product and it was supposed to, the success metric was that, hey, based on the investment in marketing, based on the adoption trends, you should at least make 10 millions out of it in a quarter. And let's say in the quarter, if instead of 10 million, it made 9 million, would anyone complain? No, it's not a, it was good. What if it was 7 million? Uncomfortable, but sure. What if it was 5 million? It shouldn't be so low. Maybe we need to look at something. Maybe the Mac campaign didn't work well. Maybe there were some other issues. What if it's 1 million? No. We invested 3 million in it. If it's just making, I'll lose my job.
Right.
That is the failure threshold. And you need to identify it, and you need to know that for 2 consequent quarters, if you're just making 1 million, something is drastically wrong. In large organizations, it's difficult for a manager who has gone 6 months into the journey, has spent 2 quarters worth of money to say that our assumptions were wrong, or the market is not reacting the way we are reacting. And they cannot say that, oh, we failed, right? Why? Because there was never the culture of that. There was like, what is a success metric? And there is this mythical belief that because we are corporate, we are a large enterprise, we did a lot of simulations and modelings, that we should succeed. It doesn't work like that. Products fail. And the only way after 6 months, there can be a very, pragmatic, a very evidence-based discussion, not blaming each other. If from the beginning there was a failure threshold being decided upon, and there is a clear indication that, hey, there's a clear discussion that we are constantly below this, what should we do? Should we pivot? Should we, or just close down? Because otherwise it leads to that sunk cost fallacy, where people keep on pumping money till it comes as an loss of reputation for someone. And and so many programs in law, so many organizations are just running because they were funded once, and they keep on getting this trickle of fund, because no one wants to be the one to say that this has failed, let's close this and move on. And the only way to do this is when your business outcomes come with a failure threshold. And the objection that I hear for this is that if you give a failure threshold, then what everyone will do is work just hard enough to stay above it, and they will never aim for a success metric. And that is a bigger problem. That's a totally different problem. If your organization is motivated by doing just enough, then probably you need to reach out for help and fix that. But having said that, that's also a characteristics of EEBO metrics. They should be multivariate. You cannot game them easily. 4 or 5 things have to fall into place for it to move. So it's very difficult for someone to do that minimum work that game the system. So I'm just above the failure threshold. And if someone is consistently just above the failure threshold, none of these metrics are supposed to be some kind of machine algorithm or machine decision makers. There are people looking at it, and they can look, hey, what are you doing? You're consistently just staying above it. You're not putting the right effort. Maybe we need to pivot in terms of people who are working on it. So I think, Sachin, a quick recap. We called out few issues with operationalization: awareness of what are the right metrics for it, ability to say no to metrics, so it's a very concise list, very outcome oriented, be very clear about what the data sources are, and ensure that those data sources can be accessed in order to compute these metrics. Be very clear about the success and failure threshold. So all of these operational challenges, and there is one more which is very close to us, and Sachin, I want you to talk about it, is how to track. Does it mean someone has to go and build a tool, buy a tool? Like, what are those operational challenges?
Yeah, Dinkar, you said it rightly. There are like total 5 challenges we are talking about. The 4 one you listed, and the 5th one is basically how to track. And this is one thing which we have solved at ThoughtWorks by building a tool called Polaris, which is available to our customers. But in addition to that, you don't need a tool always. There are few tools here and there available in the market which try to track some metrics. But my recommendation to teams would be is to start, you don't need a tool. You can start with just an Excel sheet. All you have to do is identify the metrics and put a date, and you start putting values. So eventually you start seeing a trend line of all your metrics. That's all you need.
Hopefully we don't have to explain how to use Excel. Right?
Yeah. The cost of actually getting on this is not the tool itself, but the work which you need to put in prior to that, the 4 challenges which we talked about. I think that's what I would recommend everybody is start somewhere. You don't need to aim for perfection. Get few metrics going, a couple of them through engineering side and a couple of them through business outcome side. And you start making snapshot like every week, every month, whatever that interval which is suitable to you. But make a point that whenever you get these values, you see last 3 data points and converse about what is this trend line indicating. Right. The goal is not to look at one number, but to look at how these correlations are happening. Hey, we made 2 feature releases in the last 3 months. Here is the business impact which we wanted to track. I don't see that impact, or I see the impact. And that is the conversation which is going to deliver value, not the act of tracking itself. So if you do that, that's a good starting point, I would say.
So the key takeaway is pick the right set of metrics, keep it simple, figure out what those data sources are as leadership, create that openness of access to data so right metrics can be calculated, figure out your success, figure out what is that pivot threshold, and start with Excel. If nothing else, just get started, right?
Anywhere.
And everything can come. Don't go shopping first, go tracking first, and then go shop for some custom or some off the shelf, or shameless plug, ThoughtWorks Polaris, but those comes later. So I'm hoping that people find this summary useful, and we'll hear from them in few months on comments. How this experience was.
Absolutely. And if there is any challenge you feel, happy to discuss about what your journey is, and then are there any challenges?
Maybe we can invite you to the podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.